Hello and thanks for tuning in to Living and Healing with MCS again. Today I'm sharing an experience with you that is probably the most private experience that I've ever made. I'm doing this in English because I find it a lot easier to share it in English with you because English is more like the heart and emotional language. So for all you Germans, here are the subtitles for you. I'm going to share with you the day that I died because of MCS. And first of all, I thought 1,000 times that MCS is going to kill me now. Right now, I'm going to die because my heart was racing and stumbling and stopping, and then it started again. I had all those really crucial symptoms that made me feel as if I'm going to die right now, but I never died until that one moment. And first of all, I want to tell you how I got there. I made a trip that most of you advised me not to do. I decided to move to Uruguay because of the wonderful environment and because all of my plans were perfectly performable there. And I thought going to Montevideo non-stop is going to be too difficult, so I decided to go over Madrid and do a little stop there, and I thought I could catch a breath and regain my strength in Madrid, and that was the first mistake. Madrid was no recovery at all. That's where the flight actually started. The moment I left my house in Germany is when the exposure started. Because you know how it is, as soon as you go out of your home, out of the safe area, the fragrance-free area, the smells come from everywhere and they trigger you and you just get into exposure, and that's where your body starts reacting. So your detoxification stops and that's how you have to go on. And we did the flight to Madrid, which was very bad. Don't want to lie about that. Since oxygen got taken away from me, it was really hard. Thousands of fragrances and toxins around me. So I got to Madrid and the people there were really nice, and they tried to do everything MCS suitable, but if you don't know one, you don't know what to do. You never know how to do the right thing. So obviously it smelled like rose everywhere in that apartment. So Chris and I were fleeing for almost 7 days. Daily we went from green lung to green lung, from the parks to the parks, away from the people, away from the crowds. Grab anything to eat in between and then just keep going away from people, keep going away from everything that's triggering me, without success. There were a couple of minutes in the park where I could actually really catch a breath because there were no people and the trees gave me some fresh oxygen. But yeah, so that was constant exposure, and with that constant exposure I went onto another flight, 10-hour flight, and I've learned to train myself, do meditation and keep myself calm, even though I feel like I'm dying right now because my heart starts stumbling and breathing really gets hard and I feel like I have to go to sleep. I know I should not go to sleep then, because if I go to sleep then it can end right there. Anyway, we went onto that flight. Over the flight, I survived the flight, even though many people said, don't do it, Julie, you're not gonna survive it. I thought to myself, you can do it. I'm gonna do it anyway. I'm gonna see how far I can go. And actually, to be honest, I ended my life right there at the airport in Madrid. I had everything sorted out. I had a little present for Chris to be sent to him if I didn't make it. I had a last post to my brother that I sent him. I wrote my friends. I really ended it right there. But I still thought I can do it. And I made it. I arrived in Montevideo and I thought, oh, now I'm going to get to the wonderful little house by the beach. I'm going to be able to breathe and restore my health back there. And I was so wrong, because as you know, the house was completely moldy and we could never move in there. So we stayed with our acquaintances for the first 2 nights, which was even worse because they weren't only using fragrances, but they were also using pesticides against all the animals there, which was really heavy stuff. So Chris was watching my sleep. I think it was even more stressful for Chris than it was ever for me, because Chris was, if I die, I die. I ended my life. I had a wonderful life, and right at that moment, my life was just a hassle. Not only for me, but also to other people, everyone around me. Life has become a hassle to everyone around me. So if it would have ended right there, it would have been okay for me, but it's even harder for someone living with me. So Chris was watching my sleep for the first 2 nights when we stayed with our acquaintances, and every couple of hours he just shook me saying, "Julie, please stop breathing again, stop breathing again." And oh, there I came back again. And so we decided, okay, we gotta move on to the property at least, because staying in that house of our friends was no possibility. And so we moved to the ground, and Chris built something like a little hut type of thing so we could sleep outside. And it would have been good if it wouldn't have been for the humans around us, all the neighbors, enjoying their barbecues and enjoying their showers. And so the wind just blows it all right into me. So the day that I died, my neighbor was burning plastics. He was burning his trash. So I had no choice but go inside the moldy house. And that moldy house was really moldy. Not just a little mold here and there, but it was really stinky of mold. The whole air was filled with spores. So I had to go inside just to try and survive. And Chris decided to go over to our neighbors and new friends, the Ortiz, for a couple of moments because he had to organize something. I don't even remember what it was. And I remember lying down and thinking to myself, okay, it's getting really heavy right here. You really shouldn't fall asleep until Chris comes back. And my eyes got so heavy, my whole body was exhausted. And I'm not talking about the usual exhaustion that we all know, and I know we know all states of exhaustion and tiredness, but that was somehow different. It really felt like my breath is moving out of me. The last power is moving out of me. And I thought to myself, okay, don't fall asleep, don't fall asleep. And I got to that point where I just couldn't keep it anymore. I got to the point where I couldn't breathe anymore, where it felt easier not to breathe but just skip a breath. So I just thought, well, close your eyes and just skip one breath. It's not gonna kill you. You're gonna breathe just now again. And I skipped another breath and another one. And when I thought I wanted to start breathing again, I couldn't. And I lost consciousness. And when I came back to consciousness, I was not in my body anymore. I was watching myself from the outside. And I remember thinking, oh my gosh, this is so easy. It feels so light. Because my body's been aching so much. Every bit, every fiber of my body has been hurting. And life was a hassle. And all of a sudden it felt light. And I remember being outside of my body, seeing myself lie there. Not breathing, pale white like the wall. And I got sad because there was so much I still wanted to do. Because there were people that still wanted to have me around, even though I was such a hassle. And Chris was over at our neighbors, and later on he told me that all of a sudden, while he was in the middle of the sentence, he just felt that he had to run back, break off the conversation and just run, because he felt something is wrong with me. And so it was. And as I watched myself from like above, he ran in the house, and I saw him shaking me like he always did. He started slapping me, saying, "Julie, Julie, please come back, don't leave me here." And the next moment, I remember grasping for air. He made me come back. He really made me come back. I grasped for air, and later on when we talked about it, he says, "I've never seen your pupils so big as you grasped for air. You were pale, you were just gone that moment." And I told him I couldn't lie anymore at that moment. All the time I tried to lie to him and tell him that I was doing fine, not to concern him any more than he was already. But that moment I couldn't lie it. I was gone. I was gone. And on the one hand, that was a really rattling experience. On the other hand, I'm glad to tell you guys, dying is really hard. You don't die because of the first exposure, and you don't die because you're under exposure for a whole week. It takes weeks, and really the most heaviest exposures that you can imagine to die, even though you feel like you're dying thousands of times. And actually, yes, your organs are shutting off from time to time, but the body is an extremely strong machine and always fights its way back. And even though I was already crossing over the Jordan, I got back. And so that's what I wanted to share with you. I wanted to share with you about how MCS kills us, how hard it is to die. And that when finally you are dying, it's a release. It's a wonderful feeling. So if you ever get to the point of where you're dying, don't be afraid. It's wonderful. It's a wonderful experience to leave that body again, because that body is a real hassle. If you go back into the spirit, at least that's how I kind of experienced it, even though I'm not really a spiritual person, gotta know that. It was a release. It's the most wonderful feeling. It's a very free feeling, but be sure you did everything in this life that you have to do, because otherwise you're gonna have some regrets, obviously. And the next time I'm going to have a session with Christoph. I'm gonna take Christoph into an interview and talk about how it is for our spouses to live with us, how it's for my husband, for my brothers, how it's for the people around us, how it actually affects them psychologically. It obviously does a lot to us as well. But if you're dealing with it yourself, you're suppressing the emotional side a lot. And the partner really suffers a lot more emotionally. So tune in again to hear about Chris's experience next time with a partner that's having MCS. Thank you for listening to my experience, and tune in again next time. See you. Bye.